House of X is coming to a close today, and Powers of X next week coming to a close as well as we get the Dawn of X. And just like I've always mentioned, this writing is top-notch. Everything about it, you get intrigue, mystery, so much X-Men lore, and sporadic action. Although it's setting up the action in the future issues, we're not quite there yet. You had a couple of issues of tons of action, but a lot of reveals. And the biggest part of all of this is these are setup issues. So here's what's important about writing setup issues, like these all have been. Every single issue has to have a purpose. Every single scene has to have a purpose. And even deeper than that, every panel has to have a purpose. And so the editing work has to be 100% on point. This is a deep, deep story. Very long-term, epic-reaching story. And for this to work, all of those elements have to be in place. And guess what? They have been. This is the best storytelling that I've seen in years from any comic book and any book that I've read, to be honest with you. So, look, I'm just more excited for Dawn of X than anything that I've been reading in years and years. So, this issue's great. And I'll get into a lot of nuanced issues about it, but I want to tell you first off, there's been a little bit of a back and forth between the different people who feel different ways about how this series is going, right? There's a lot of us who feel that this is a very dark, dystopian kind of world, and that the X-Men are acting very strangely, and that, you know, they're being tyrants and fascists in a way, and excluding the humans completely, and saying that they are absolutely better than them in every way. And there are those who say, you know, finally mutants have the justice that they deserve. You know, finally they are able to show their true colors and their true nature and be apart from everyone. And we all feel a little bit different about this, and I love talking about it. So I'd really love to hear what you have to say in the comments below, specifically about that issue, because it's interesting, you know, the difference between some folks feel that this is very segregationist, and some folks really are praising this and saying that it's a good thing. So it's fascinating to see the difference between the fandom saying, hey, this is a utopia, and then some of the fans saying this is a dystopian future. So this issue really dives in deeper to that. And the absolute first quote right here is what we have perfect? No. What is? But it's a good start. A good one. Professor X. And, you know, from that, as soon as I read that, I thought about a post. One of the writers, Brian Hill, he's going to be writing Fallen Angels, and he was responding to someone, and they asked him a question about the theme of Fallen Angels, one of the new Dawn of X books that's going to be put out. And I saw him on social media. He said that he's not going to reveal any spoilers, but he said that one of the themes is talking about the price of utopia, right? And I think that's wonderful, because that is that's a theme in some of my favorite literature. So we're going just in the perfect direction that I want to go into. And it starts out really deep right here. Okay, you have Eric, Xavier, and Moira. They're standing around and they're talking about the future, that they can't turn back after they make this decision. And this is a month ago, and so you don't know exactly what's about to take place, but you find out when Xavier starts talking. And I'll tell you right now, before I even begin this speech that I'm about to give, this really reminds me of Galt's Gulch from Atlas Shrugged. And I'll tell you that it feels as though, you know, the mutants have decided, yes, we're superior, and we're leaving, and we're going to go off by ourselves and start our own society and segregate ourselves from everyone else. And in its own sense, it's a great story. Like I said, different people have different perspectives about it, but I'd like to just take a moment and read the short bit. It's only 3 pages, and that's the only part I'm going to read from this book, and then I'm just going to kind of tell you a little bit more about it. But, reviews are all subjective, and, here I am just kind of giving you my opinion about these books, and so I want to read my favorite part, because I think that this really creates that parallel to Galt's Gulch, So you have Xavier. He puts on his helmet, and here's what he's doing. He's announcing himself to the world. There were these, in the very first issue, there were these drugs that are grown from the flowers of Krakoa that they were introducing to the world. And, I have this issue right in front of me. These human drugs that are grown from this flower. The first one is produces a drug that extends the life of a human for 5 full years. That's great. This next one, it produces an adaptive universal antibiotic superdrug for humans, basically a cure for cancer. The next one cures diseases of the mind. So I suppose that'd be Alzheimer's and, schizophrenia, things of that nature. So this speech, Xavier's putting on his helmet, and he addresses the entire world. Xavier says, "Humans of the planet Earth, I am the mutant Charles Xavier, and I bring you a message of hope. In the coming days, you will learn of several far-reaching pharmaceutical breakthroughs that have been discovered by mutant scientists. These drugs extend human life, heal diseases of the mind, and prevent or cure most common maladies. Influenza, Alzheimer's, ALS, many cancers gone overnight. These drugs will make life on this planet better, remarkably so. All this we have made for you. In the past, they would have been a gift, something freely given by me to you, because I believed it would create harmony between our two peoples. That was my dream, harmony. But you have taught me a harsh lesson. That dream was a lie. You see, all I ever wanted was peace between humans and mutants. All I ever wanted was to love you, and for you to love us. We wanted to save you, and we did, many times. But in return, all you did was stand by while evil men killed our children, over 16 million of them. So there will be no gift, for you have not earned it. We will, however, let you pay for it. In return for 2 things, we will provide you with the means to have a better life, one without pain or suffering, and full of hope, and it will cost you so little. First, you must accept the island of Krakoa as the nation-state of all mutants on this planet. We will happily go through the same process as newly formed nation within the UN, but there is an exception, that our sovereignty will be recognized. Second, all mutants by birth can claim Krakoan citizenship. And with that citizenship, we expect a period of amnesty, so that those who have been singled out as criminals or punished and imprisoned by humans can overcome man's bias against mutants. From this day forward, mutants will be judged by mutant law, not man's. These are our simple demands, and they are not negotiable. In return for making our lives better, we will do the same for you. And if you find yourselves asking, who are these mutants to think that they can dictate terms to us? We are the future, an evolutionary inevitability, the Earth's true inheritors. You closed your eyes last night believing this world would be yours forever, and that was your dream. And like mine, it was a lie. Here's the new truth. While you slept, the world changed. This is, and look, right there at the very end, you see this smirk, a devious smirk on Xavier's lips. And I said this with my last review. This can be really construed as 2 different things, or many different things. Looking at his face, it could be simply happiness or deviousness, or like myself, if you might look at this and say that that is a little bit sinister. And if you say that, then, you're kind of looking at things the way that I have when it comes to this series. And it's fine, of course, to have a different perspective. I want to talk about it. I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments. Please tell me. I want to chat with it. Even if it's you telling me to F off, that's absolutely fine. But, the way that they're acting, really, it feels like Magneto. It feels like everyone at this point is Eric Lyncher, and that's just not the X-Men, I'll be honest with you. So, I know I didn't say this before. Jonathan Hickman, of course, is writing. Pepe Larraz is doing all of the art, pencils and pencils and inks. And Marte Gracia and David Carell are doing the colors. We have another colorist stepping in for this issue with Marte Gracia. So, just kind of like I said, things are going very much in the same direction that I thought they would. And this issue itself, like I said, this whole thing is going to have spoilers simply because I can't review these books without having that, Again, I'm just talking off the cuff here. None of this is planned. This is what's great. We already see here that the Quiet Council of Krakoa is being named. These are the 12 people that are going to be responsible for the politics of the island. And this is fascinating to look at these folks, because many of them are villains, just like you would think. And they divide them up into seasons of the year, which again is pretty fascinating. Professor Xavier, Magneto, Apocalypse, Mr. Sinister, Exodus, Mystique. This one is the one that always bothered me from the very beginning. Sebastian Shaw. Of course, you have to have Emma Frost involved. And there is a name missing right here. This is the Red King. And of course, immediately I think of Omega Red. That's probably not going to be the case. But that's the Red. I mean, how can you not think that? I'm sure everyone kind of... but that's too obvious, isn't it? Storm, Jean Grey, Nightcrawler. And, of course, the island of Krakoa and Cypher can communicate together, so they're the two added elements to this council. And, again, I really love these supplemental materials that have been shown all the way throughout, and I love this panel. It shows them sitting down, welcome, and please be seated. Look... From my perspective, looking at these pictures here, I can't help but feel a little bit of, what's the word? Uneasiness. Seeing Apocalypse sitting next to Magneto and Xavier and, Mystique and Exodus sitting there with Sinister, talking with Sebastian Shaw and Storm together as friends. And literally, he says as family. It's off-putting. But this whole issue kind of revolves. It kind of revolves around the whole idea that they're putting Sabretooth on trial. And the reason why is, Sabretooth, he's killed someone. He went off on his own. He was on a mission, and he went off on his own, made some mistakes, did some things that they did not want him to, and they're going to punish him. Here's what I think they should have done. Since the law had not been established yet, I think they should have been a little bit more fair and said, hey, look, don't do this again. We're going to establish these rules now because they had not been established yet. But they were pretty harsh on him, right? And they did devise this whole code, and it's a great code. They came upon it all together by talking. They said that there were 3 main rules that they were creating for their island, and that would be to make more mutants, and that was really Nightcrawler. And he, of course, he's Catholic, and so he quotes the Bible and says, "Be fruitful and multiply." And so that's their number 1 rule. They must make more mutants, whether that's genetic engineering and cloning. Or birth, natural birth, of course, all kinds of different ways. But of course, they can engineer mutants now, which makes it a little easier, and way quicker, Like I said, in the past, they're going to multiply the population by millions in a few short years. Their second one came upon them. It almost felt like a do unto others as we would want them to do unto us. We don't want to be murdered by man, like has happened in the past. So we must murder no man. is the second rule. That is absolutely, it makes a ton of sense. And the third part, of course, it was Cypher that said this. He speaks with the island Krakoa and is one with the island in its own sense, And he said to respect this sacred land, and that really came about by him kind of saying, look, this island's alive. This is not just land that you can purchase and buy. Maybe we could do that on Earth, aside from this, because it's not really alive, technically. It's just a plot of land. So, but this is to be respected and recognized as a sovereign being. And with that in mind, they sentence Sabretooth for what he's done. And they say that he will indefinitely be held in exile within the core of the island, where he will be conscious and aware of time passing, but unable to do anything about it, just enclosed in darkness, caught in his thoughts. They say eternally, they say forever, but hey, this is a comic book. Nothing lasts forever, even death, and so you can expect him to be released or get free, or maybe even, hey, who knows, there's tons of things the island could get upset at the mutants and let him free. Tons of different possibilities. So again, I felt like it was a little bit unfair, to be honest with you, but I'm a little bit skeptical that this is even Xavier behind the Cerebro helmet, to be honest. At least his consciousness. I feel as though, he's so different. He's acting more like Eric than himself. And, that's fine. I'll be honest, Magneto is absolutely my favorite character, but look, he's still a villain, and Xavier isn't. I mean, hey, look, Xavier's made a lot of mistakes, and he definitely, and think about it. Look, in the past, he's done all kinds of crazy stuff, I was just talking about this with, some of my buddies. We talk comics, and, I was talking with Ash on Comics. He has a channel on YouTube as well, and I was talking to him about this, and I was like, I mean, he think about what he did. He actually, he knew that the Danger Room at one point had become sentient, and he puts everyone's lives in jeopardy and just kind of doesn't tell them at all. Puts their lives at risk. I mean, he collected, think about what Xavier's done as well. He's collected all of the background information and how to kill every single, not just mutant, but superhero in the entire Marvel universe. And, that's when he became Onslaught. That's when Onslaught manifested, because it's a part of him. So, that was dark, and that Xavier did that, So, hey, look, I'm not putting this past him. This is just a little over the top, right? Again, and it's weird at the end, they're kind of celebrating, and, it's a celebration, but there's a darkness to it. There really is a darkness to it, and it was interesting. So I follow Pepe Larraz. I follow this whole creative team on social media, and I watch what they have to say. So kind of when I was preparing my bullet points to talk about here, I was listening to the same soundtrack that Pepe Larraz was listening to when he drew this comic book, and that was fun for one. That was just so cool, to have a similar experience, put myself through that. I really like immersing myself in that kind of depth, and this is one of those books that you really feel immersed inside of the lore and what's happening. And look, I have this is my highest suggestion for any comic book. In the past 10 years, I haven't read anything this great, and just like I've always been saying, I only really want to be constructive and touch on, positive things about the books that I like. And, I might approach some books in the future where I'm a little bit more critical of the writing if there's some things I dislike. But, I've made the decision to really just speak with kindness, I guess is the word. And the kindness that I have to offer here is this is the best freaking creative team in comic books. And so that's absolutely true. Look, I'd love to hear what you think. Again, if you're not reading this, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're not. But I'm glad that you're at least, watching these reviews and getting a taste for it. And if you're not going to dive into it just now, hey, in a couple weeks, start picking up Dawn of X. It's going to be 5 titles. The XMen, Hickman's going to be on it. You have another book with Hickman on it, and Brisson's going to be writing that as well. You have a Brian Edward Hill book. Look, I don't know the other 2 writers. I can't remember actually who they are. I don't think I've read any of their stuff. Maybe I have. But those are the 3 books that caught my eye. I'm going to get the number 1s from all of these, however, just to see how they are. And I may not follow all of them. That's a lot of reading. I joke around with people, and I'm like, look, my channel is becoming the Jonathan Hickman channel. I guess that's true. But, as soon as Dawn of X happens, I don't feel like I'm going to have a ton of time to review anything else. And so my channel may very well become the X-Men channel. Hey, I'm okay with that. X-Men's my favorite franchise, and I haven't enjoyed an X book like this since, well, I guess the last one was maybe Scott Lobdell. Again, Morrison's run was good, but it didn't really hit home for me. It was fine. But hey, like I said, tell me what you think. Even if it's, hey, F you, man, I hate your perspectives, that's absolutely fine. But hey, look, if you have a different perspective, I actually want to hear about it. I want to know how you feel. What's going on here? Do you get a sense that this is a dark dystopian world, or do you feel like this is going to be a perfect utopia? Again, that quote in the very beginning kind of leads me to believe that just like Brian Hill said, about the theme of fallen angels, it's going to touch on utopias have a price, right? And if you haven't read I guess, what is it? The Lois Lowry books. Gathering Blue is the one that was supposed to be, a utopia that ended up being a dystopian society. And, I love books like that. So, again, this comic book is right up my alleyway. Let me know what you think. You're the gateway into comics.